Am I still sharing my screen? I can no longer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. See if I can. It doesn't look like I have access to open up for those in the waiting room.
Do you have a button that says start webinar? I don't have it on mine.
Think it has already started.
That is correct. I went ahead and started the webinar. Did I do something wrong? I'm not able to let anyone in or see your cameras anymore.
I see a list of attendees joining in.
Yep, they're joining.
Awesome, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We will start promptly at 6:30 p.m. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. We will begin promptly at 6:30 p.m. Good evening. I am Dr. Sharmel Atkins, and I serve as the Chief Equity Officer for Prince William County Schools. We are excited to offer this presentation in
जी
both
इनका नाम
English
डॉक्टर
and
शर्मा है
in
ये
Urdu this evening. To hear the presentation in Urdu on the computer, look for the interpretation button on your control bar. Once you click on it, select Urdu and your icon should change. To hear the presentation in Urdu on your cell phone, click on the Join Audio and click Call over Internet. Next, click on the three dots and the word More. Click on Language Interpretation and select Urdu, then click Done.
जी आप अगर इसको उर्दू में सुनना चाह रहे हैं अस्सलाम वालेकुम आप क्या करेंगे कि सबसे पहले आप अपने अगर कंप्यूटर पे हैं तो आपने आप क्या इसके ऊपर एक आपको बटन नज़र आएगा आपने उसको प्रेस करना है उसके ऊपर लिखा होगा और अगर आप फ़ोन पे हैं तो उस पे नंबर होगा उस पे साथ कीजिएगा और अगर आप कंप्यूटर पे हैं तो उसके आपको एक नज़र आएगा गोल सा उस पे आप करके और उसके बाद आपने उसको दबाना है 3 नुक्ते होंगे उसमें लैंग्वेज का आपको आएगा लैंग्वेज देखने के बाद आप उस पे उर्दू को प्रेस कीजिएगा और फिर उसके बाद आप जो है इंटरप्रिटेशन यानी तर्जुमे में चले जाएंगे बहुत शुक्रिया थैंक यू
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's important webinar, Stop the Scroll, Take Control, an overview of our Prince William County Schools cell phone policy. I'm Denise Hebner, Associate Superintendent for Student Services and Post-Secondary Success, and I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of our team as we explore a transformative shift in how we support student well-being, focus, and academic success. Our new cell phone free education policy, Policy 729, is grounded in a directive from the Governor of Virginia, who has tasked all school boards with developing and implementing cell phone policies aligned with his guidance. Our division has responded with a thoughtful, student-centered approach that we're excited to share with you today. Next slide, please. In this session, we'll walk through our new cell phone free education policy, 729. We will share what it means, how it will be implemented, and what a typical student day at each level will look like under the new structure. From arrival to dismissal, we're creating environments that are more focused, more connected, and more conducive to learning. We know that cell phones have become a constant presence in students' lives, but research and our own observations show that less screen time during school day leads to more meaningful engagement, stronger peer relationships, and improved mental health. By reducing digital distractions, we're giving students a space to be present, think critically, and to build interpersonal skills that are essential for life and beyond the classroom. We'll also highlight supports in place for families, staff, and we'll leave time for your questions and feedback. We're excited to partner with our families in this effort to create learning environments that not only are academically rigorous, but also emotionally and socially supportive. In addition to the logistics of our cell phone policy, we're pleased to receive information from Dr. Chris, who is a clinical director of Child and Family Counseling Center in Woodbridge. Dr. Chris will be sharing valuable insights for our family on the impact of cell phone use and partnerships. We're also deeply honored to have Mr. Tracy Blake, School Board Vice Chair, with us this evening. You will have an opportunity to hear from him shortly. But first, I'd like to acknowledge our wonderful panel of Prince William County School staff that are here with us this evening, including Dr. Sharmel Atkins, who you heard from, our Chief Equity Officer. We also have with us Mr. Ron Crow, our Director of Security and Crisis Readiness, Dr. Wendy Martin, our Director of Special Education Programs and Development, and also Catherine Porter Lucas, Associate Superintendent for Middle Schools. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our School Board Vice Chair, Mr. Tracy Blake. Mr. Tracy Blake serves as the Vice Chair of the Prince William County School Board, representing the Neabsco District. Elected in 2023, he brings a wealth of academic knowledge and powerful personal investment as a parent of 3 children attending our public schools. Throughout his career, Mr. Blake has been a tireless advocate for educational equity, mental health services, and academic achievement for every student. Please join me in welcoming a dedicated leader, a passionate advocate, and a true partner in student success, Mr. Tracy Blake.
Thank you, Ms. Huebner. And good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. It is my honor to welcome our students, families, educators, and community partners to this important parent engagement webinar. As Vice Chair of the Prince William County School Board, I want to begin by sincerely thanking you for being here tonight and for your continued feedback, your thoughtful questions, and your deep commitment to the success of our students. It is through events like this that we strengthen our schools and our partnerships with our families. Tonight's topics, the division's new cell phone free education policy has generated tremendous interest across our community, and that is a good thing because it is not just about phones, it is about focus. It's about restoring the classroom as a place where students are fully present mentally, emotionally, and socially. The school board adopted this policy after careful study, community input, and a successful pilot across 33 schools. Beginning in August 2025, we will implement a bell-to-bell cell phone free policy that is rooted in research aligned with Executive Order 33 from Governor Youngkin and guided by one simple question: what is best for students? And the answer is clear. Cell phones, when constantly present, are a barrier to engagement, academic achievement, and meaningful human connection. They interrupt learning, reduce focus, and diminish face-to-face interaction, skills that are essential for success in school and life. And as our school board chairman, Dr. Barbara Lateef said, students' minds should be focused on lessons in front of them, not on the distractions in their pockets. And I couldn't agree more with Dr. Lateef. This policy is not about punishment or restriction. It is about the protection of our classroom time, of student intention, and of our shared goal to help every student thrive. And our students are leading the way. We recently invited students in grades 6 through 12 to submit a slogan to promote this policy. Over 1,600 students entered the contest, and nearly 5,000 students voted for the winning slogan. The winning entry, "Stop the Scroll, Take Control," was created by Ruth V. Devante. Her words captured the heart of this policy to empower students to reclaim control of their learning and their lives. As a father, I believe we are doing the right thing. I know that with your continued partnership and our focused, engaged, and ready to meet the challenges of we create the classrooms where students are focused, engaged, and ready to meet the challenges of the future. Thank you for being here tonight, sincerely, and you could be so many other places. And I thank you for being part of this crucial step forward for Prince William County Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Next slide. Good evening. I'm Catherine Porter Lucas, Associate Superintendent for Middle Schools, and I'm here to provide an overview of our cell phone policy. This policy supports students in their academic success by removing the significant distraction posed by cell phone usage and other personal electronic communication technology. Here are the goals of the policy: to enhance student engagement and participation in classroom activities by reducing the influence of social media-related disruptions, to foster meaningful connections and interpersonal skill development by encouraging face-to-face interactions among students, to support students in achieving academic success by minimizing interruptions to the learning process, and to model and promote responsible digital citizenship among students. Next slide. So as Mr. Blake stated earlier, in July, Governor Youngkin issued Executive Order 33. Later in the school year, they provided guidance, and we used that guidance as well as feedback from our pilot that we implemented this school year across our middle and high schools to make recommendations to the school board. And so policy 729, cell phone free education, was passed in December and will go into effect the first day of school, which is August 18th. For our K-12 students, devices will be silenced and stored away during the school day. Devices will be allowed on school buses if they do not distract the driver, compromise safety, or violate rules. And students, regardless of age or grade level, are required to follow the rules applicable to the specific school where they are present. For example, if there is a high school student who is attending an elementary event, that high school student would follow the expectations for that elementary school. Use of cell phones and personal electronic communication devices are prohibited in all locker rooms and restrooms at all times, and there are exceptions. Exceptions may be granted as disability accommodations through Section 504 plans or IEPs when necessary, and may be granted as part of the student's health, safety, or support plan when necessary. Next slide, please. In terms of wearable devices, headphones, and personal laptops or tablets, smartwatches must be placed in airplane mode, and smartwatches should be used to tell time only. Students may not use personal headphones or earbuds during the bell-to-bell school day. Prince William County will provide headphones for educational use as necessary. All students are also issued PWCS laptops or iPads, and so they will not utilize personal laptops or tablets during the bell-to-bell school day. Next slide, please. Specifically for our elementary and our combination schools, all cell phones and personal electronic communication devices must be turned off and stored away and may not be used at any time within the school building, on school grounds, or during any instructional periods, regardless of location, including field trips. Students are permitted to use their cell phones and personal electronic communication devices while on school buses or while they're in their parent or guardian's vehicles and before they enter or after they exit school grounds. Next slide, please. Specifically for our secondary schools, all cell phones and personal electronic communication devices must be turned off and stored away during the bell-to-bell school day and during any instructional periods. All cell phones and personal electronic communication devices may be turned on and used within the school and on the school campus before or after the bell-to-bell school day. Next slide, please. If a student does not follow the policy, all of our schools have a common response. So for the first offense, the student would surrender the wireless communication device. The device will be locked in the main office and it will be returned to the student at the end of the school day. The student will sign the acknowledgement of further consequences form, and the staff member will document this offense. It says in the hub, which is our student information system. For the second offense, the student will surrender the wireless communication device. The device will be locked in the main office, and the device will be returned to the student at the end of the school day. The student will receive a second warning, and the teacher or staff member will notify the parent or guardian using school status, and the parent will be informed that the next offense, which would be the third offense, will result in a disciplinary incident in our student information system, and the parent would have to come retrieve the device. It will also be documented. If a student continues to have their device out the third offense, the student will surrender the wireless communication device. The device will be locked in the main office, and a discipline referral will be generated documenting the violation of the cell phone policy. The student will complete a healthy cell phone use Canvas module during a lunch detention, an after-school detention, a restorative reflection, or a Saturday school. And the parent will have to retrieve the device from the school office and sign the acknowledgement of further consequences form. And so our infractions are cumulative, and these are the responses to those infractions. Next slide, please. We are going to share some of our definitions to ensure that we all have a common understanding. So what does stored mean? Stored means the device is not carried on the student's person, including not kept in their pocket. Storage options include a backpack, a student's locker, or a designated space in the classroom. Bell to bell. This is from when the first bell rings at the start of the school day to begin instructional time until the dismissal bell rings at the end of the academic school day. That includes lunch and time in between class periods. Students may use a phone in the school office to contact a parent or guardian during the bell-to-bell school day should the need arise. Cumulative. Repeated violations are aggregated over the school year. So this policy applies to all areas of the school: classrooms, hallways, bathrooms, cafeteria, and infractions continue for the entire school year. It does not reset every quarter or at the semester. Next slide, please. We understand that many families view the cell phone currently as the best way to communicate family information. However, we have defined family emergencies and how they will be handled at the schools to avoid the distractions for our students while they are learning. So for family emergencies, those are urgent situations involving the student's family that necessitate immediate contact. So those examples are on the screen: serious illness or injury, death of a family member, unexpected family crisis. So the parent would call the front office, provide relevant information, including contact details, the student's name and class, specifics of the emergency, and the school staff will help assess the situation and take appropriate measures. We are asking that a parent or guardian not contact their child through the student's cell phone during that bell-to-bell school day to relay information about a family emergency. The schools will be equipped with ways to provide that message to your student. Next slide, please. We recognize that there may be non-emergencies, but that they are a priority. So while not emergencies, these are events that are significant enough to necessitate immediate attention. So some examples are information about an upcoming appointment, change of family plans, the need for the student to leave school early, transportation changes, adjustments to commitments. And so parents and guardians, again, should not contact their student through their cell phone or personal electronic communication device. We are asking that parents contact the school office with messages for students, and the school office will facilitate. Schools will be receiving best practices and procedures, and schools will implement a process for families regarding time-sensitive messages during the school day. Examples could be special messages that are delivered during the last block of the day, notes in teachers' mailboxes, front office staff deliveries, etc. Next slide, please. We also have non-emergencies that are non-priority. So this is information that can wait until after school hours. They do not require immediate attention, and they are not critical to the student's well-being or academic performance. For example, social plans, reminders about dinner choices, chores, errands, non-urgent family matters that can be postponed. So again, we are asking parents or guardians to refrain from contacting their students through the cell phone or personal electronic communication device. We are waiting to relay that information about the non-emergency, non-priority situations until after the school day, and the parent can leave a message for their student on their personal device. And when the student finishes the school day, they can access these communications. If the message does need to be conveyed urgently, again, we are asking that parents contact the school office to relay the message to the student. Next slide, please. So part of our policy and the governor's guidance is to share emergency protocols with families. At this time, I'd like to have Mr. Ron Crow, Director of Security and Crisis Readiness, to share our PWCS protocols.
Thank you. The Crisis Management Plan outlines guidelines for staff and students on how to respond to school crisis with the deployment of crisis response teams and the support of first responders. Each school has emergency response plans reviewed each summer by the Prince William County Schools Security and Crisis Readiness Department. Schools have site-specific crisis plans for hold, secure the building, lockdown, evacuation, shelter in place, and accountability of students and staff. There are 15 crisis drills mandated that schools complete each year, including a training video that all staff and students review regarding crisis terminology and response actions. And you can see a link to that video there. Certainly your best source of accurate information during any crisis is through Prince William County Schools, and we message in a number of different ways. You can see those listed below to include school-to-parent messaging through email, text, and phone. We will place posts on our website and on Facebook, and there's a couple other ways that we reach out, as you can see below.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Next slide, please. As mentioned previously, there are exemptions to our policy. Dr. Wendy Martin Johnson, Director of Special Education Programs and Development, will share information at this time about our exceptions.
Thank you and good evening. There are exceptions to the guidelines that may be granted as a disability accommodation through your child's Section 504 plan or their IEP when it's necessary to ensure that students access to school and school-sponsored activities as determined by the IEP or 504 team. Exceptions may also be granted as a part of a student's safety or other support plan. School-issued devices and assistive technology devices should first be used to meet the technological needs of a student with a disability. We've provided a couple of examples for the area of social or organizational skills. A picture of the board can be taken with a school-issued device and does not require a student's personal phone or smartwatch if they're taking a picture of the schedule for the week or the homework for the week. If your child has anxiety and they need to call a parent or guardian, they can go to the main office or to their school counselor to make that call. Teams are required to address if an accommodation is required to provide FAPE, a free appropriate public education, or to access the general education curriculum. Medical issues may also be considered as exceptions by the IEP or 504 team. Those examples would include an independent student tracking their medical and monitoring their medical information, such as blood sugar for diabetes or maybe heart rates for other conditions, or students who may have cochlear implants and they have to do audio adjustments. As far as music and earbuds, all Prince William County students will have access to YouTube playlist with headphones if they need to listen to music. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Martin Johnson. So we really want to ensure that all of our stakeholders understand our policy. So as you heard earlier, we kicked off our cell phone free campaign, Stop the Scroll, Take Control. Yesterday, our school board voted on our new code of behavior, and we have an updated section in the code of behavior to include our cell phone policy and our definitions. We are going to continue our ongoing cell phone focus group to continue to garner feedback from students, parents, and staff who are part of our focus group to provide feedback on the policy and how it is being implemented. We have training planned for our staff on the policies, the procedures, the resources. We also have our updated FAQ, our frequently asked questions for staff and families, on our website. And we will continue to send out reminders about the policy and information for our students and families, because we want to make sure that we are best prepared to start off successfully in August. Next slide, please. For more information regarding our policy, it is posted on our website. And now I am excited to welcome Dr. Christ. He's a licensed clinical psychologist. And Dr. Christ, he has a career dedicated to supporting individuals and families. He brings a wealth of experience in counseling, psychotherapy, and psychological assessment. Dr. Chris works with clients of all ages and is a certified substance abuse counselor, specializing in addictive disorders in both teens and adults. A passionate advocate for early intervention, Dr. Chris is also the author of 9 self-help books for children, with a 10th, How to Parent Angry Kids Without Losing Your Cool, set to be released next year. So it is with my pleasure that I introduce Dr. Chris.
Thank you very much for having me. We've got about 15 minutes to go over quite a bit of information, so I'm going to try to keep it simple. If you are interested, I did do a talk a couple of years back on parenting in the electronic age. If you go to my website, jamesjchris.com, you can actually listen to that talk if you are interested in more information about not just cell phone use, but also video games, etc., social media, YouTube, Instagram, etc., the whole range of things. So, power of communication. One of the things I want to say in the way of introduction is that adolescents and young kids are spending more time online than ever before. And social media and cell phones can shape mental health positively or negatively. So I really want to talk a little bit about the effects of cell phone use and social media on mental health and give you some tips on developing healthy digital habits for kids. So, and again, communication, one of the things that you guys probably can relate to is it's really nice to use social media to know what's happening with your friends and family. And for many of us, it really brings us closer together. And that's a great use of social media. Unfortunately, it can also convey a lot of negative information, misinformation, etc. It can make you compare yourself to other people in ways that obviously don't feel good, especially if you are a teenager who you're struggling with body image issues. It can be very, actually have deadly consequences. Want to skip to the next slide, please? All right. So if you think about this, I'm just going to go over these statistics fairly quickly. I mean, the average American spends 7 hours and 4 minutes looking at a screen each day. That's a huge amount of time. Nearly all teens have access to a smartphone, up from 73% back in 2014, 2015. Kids are getting cell phones at younger and younger ages, and I know that it feels, as parents, you feel safer if you know that you can reach your kids. 56% of kids between 8 and 12 have a cell phone use. Go back one slide, not quite ready to skip. Yeah, thanks. So again, daily screen time use has increased by nearly 50 minutes per day since 2013. One of the things I want to emphasize here too is the problem isn't just the screen use. The problem is the activities that are given up as a result of the screen use. You have fewer kids who are going out for special activities, for getting involved in plays, sports, clubs, etc. They would rather just go home and veg out on a screen. So they're missing out on quite a few things here. If you look here at the last statistic here, 4.8 hours daily on average on social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, accounting for 87% of their time. So again, it's a large amount of time we're talking about. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So again, there's just more statistics on just how the scope of the problem here. And if you think of adding up to 114 full days watching a screen for fun, that's a huge amount of time. One of the problems with cell phones in particular is, and I was surprised to see this as well, that teens receive more than 200 notifications a day on their smartphones. And 2/3 of students actually admit that they are distracted by their devices and that they would have a hard time giving up social media. That you feel if you don't have a cell phone or if you are restricted on your use, it feels like some part of you is missing. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of forgetting your cell phone at home and you feel totally disconnected. It's a scary thing. It's not something that we're used to. It just shows how dependent we are on these devices. Another main concern here is that 60% of parents don't supervise their child's technology use. The 75% of children are allowed technology in their bedrooms. And again, you might think that they are safe in their rooms, but if you have no idea where they're going on the internet, who they're talking to, whether or not the people they're talking to are real people or people impersonating others, it really is so important that you monitor it closely, especially the younger kids. One statistic I came across a while back was that at any given time on the internet, you've got about 30,000 pedophiles looking to find teenagers to talk to. So you can't be too careful with this kind of stuff. Skip to the next one, please. All right. Sleep deprivation is also a problem here. And this also reflects how addictive they can be. You may have had experience with your own kids where they will sneak the devices in the middle of the night. I've had kids go into their parents' trunks and their cars to take a video game console out and to play at night. And then they put it back in thinking that they're going to get away with this. And sometimes they do. But the sleep deprivation makes it much harder for them to pay attention in school as well. 97% of teens playing video games. Sales of games are growing. I think it's an obsession with a lot of kids. $12 billion a year industry. One of the things to keep in mind also, which we'll talk about in a second, is the way they make their money is to make them addictive to kids. They have specific ways of doing that, which we'll talk about shortly. 70% of children ages 7 to 18 have accidentally encountered online pornography, even doing a web search during homework. You may have heard some of the efforts in trying to get some of these social media companies to institute controls to limit what they can access. Instagram, for example, has a teen account program. There was just an article in the Washington Post this week talking about it was a father who decided to create a hypothetical Instagram account for a 16-year-old boy. It's supposed to, again, filter out all sensitive or inappropriate content. But he said that after 2 weeks, he counted at least 28 Instagram reels sent to him describing sexual acts that are pretty graphic. Memes about toxic masculinity, what men should and shouldn't do. Body image and distorted eating memes. Once they find out what you like, they start sending all sorts of things targeting them. So you cannot depend on these tools and assume, okay, I've got this control on my kid's cell phone. They're going to be safe. Yeah, you can't assume that. So you really have to monitor it carefully. Interestingly, teens who experience anxiety and depression spend more time daily on social media than their peers. Imagine the feelings that somebody's going to have if they're on social media and they see that a bunch of their friends are going to a party and they're the only one that was not invited. Yeah, you can feel very, very discouraged, very hurt by that. And that adolescents have mood shifts based on likes, comments, and online validation. Counting the number of likes or comments you get for each post. A lot of times these kids post pictures of themselves and they're looking for, again, validation. And if you get negative comments, that can really do a number on their self-esteem. Next slide, please. So one of the things to be aware of, again, tech is designed to be addictive. The games, social media, they tend to work on what's called a variable reward system, similar to slot machines. Why would people go to a slot machine thinking that they're going to win? And they may win once or twice, and then they keep going. You know that the casinos are making far more money. And so what it does is it balances the hope that you're going to make it big with just a little bit of frustration and maybe a sense of skill that will need it to improve your performance here. These games also tend to start out free and easy, then require more skill, time, and money to improve in the game, which makes them more addictive. Okay. The idea that you can't pause a game, that was done deliberately so that people would stay engaged. And again, they start easy with some of these games, whether it's Minecraft, getting skins, things like that. And kids often will rack up charges on their parents' credit cards before the parents even know. You probably have had this experience. They even do things with some of the research they do, sounds, video. For any of you who've played Candy Crush, that voice that you use and that sound, that was investigated to see what would keep people more engaged. Okay. Another thing to be aware of as parents is that a young person's brain lacks a fully developed self-control system, stopping this kind of obsessive behavior with these devices. Some parents will give their kids these devices at very early ages, 3, 4 years old, and it will shut them up. And it can be very convenient, but it really is doing a number on their brains. It really stops their ability or stunts their ability to exercise their attention skills. There's really no comparison between reading a book or drawing a picture, playing with Legos, and then getting the constant stimulation with everything changing so quickly in these devices. And when the kids get to school, they're not equipped. They do not know how to stay focused. They can't just skip ahead. If you look at some of the games, even like some music videos, it's about a 3 or 4 second exposure to each picture before it goes on to the next one. Think about that attention span. You develop your attention span just like you would develop any other skill that you have. You need experience. You need practice. Okay. And school, unfortunately, is very boring in comparison to these devices. And that's why this policy was developed in the school system, and it's happening all over the country, because people are realizing this is not helping kids, their education. It's not helping their social development. Next slide. All right. So let's talk about some of the negative effects of excessive phone use. There's definitely an increased risk of depression, anxiety, and stress. The sleep disruption is a real thing. If your child, your teenager is getting notifications on their phone, or they're talking back and forth to girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, and they're afraid of missing out on something, that staying awake, again, makes it much harder to get up early in the morning to go to school. One of the things we found during COVID, and this I think has continued, is that when you don't have face-to-face interactions, your social skills don't develop as well as they would otherwise. Okay. And it's also much easier to bully people via text, uh, and have conversations that end up being much more destructive than constructive. Because without being able to look at each other face to face in person, you can't pick up on body language nearly as easily. If you see somebody's uncomfortable with what you're saying, if you see a quick glance away, learning how to respond appropriately to those cues, which can help you change your behavior, change your tempo, change your tone when you're talking to somebody. You're losing out on that if most of your interaction is done by a device. It's very interesting that nowadays calling somebody is seen as intrusive. First, you got to text them to make sure it's okay, because you don't want to interrupt what they're doing. But think of what that means, the actual face-to-face conversation, or hearing somebody's voice, seeing somebody in person is now considered an intrusion. Loss of empathy, as I already mentioned here. Your teenagers are probably dealing with conflicts with their friends and dating partners through text. And again, they're missing out on something. They don't really learn how to develop more intimacy. Uh, there's a reduced ability to focus, again, on activities seen as boring. Digital dementia. We think that there may be some culturally induced ADHD based on excessive use of these digital devices, especially when you start at a very young age. Grades can drop. Lower self-esteem and body image, definitely the case. There's all sorts of filters you can get on apps like Instagram and Snapchat to make yourself more beautiful. And it's really sad because, if you feel like you have to do that to be liked by other people, it's certainly not going to benefit yourself. It's not going to improve your self-esteem. And certainly can trigger more what we call body dysmorphic disorder, where you see yourself as being overly heavy when you're not, or anorexia, where you feel like you have to get thinner and thinner to get to some sort of ideal. Unfortunately, you can go online and find all sorts of examples of people starving themselves and competing with each other. People with anorexia compete with other people that they find online to see who can be the thinnest. And of course, the risk of death is pretty high in anorexia, higher than almost any of the other mental health disorders. Online bullying, again, very easy. One of the problems you've probably seen in schools is kids get beat up in the bathroom and somebody's recording it on a cell phone, and it gets posted to the whole school. Or sending nudes to each other. It still surprises me that kids somehow think that that's an okay thing to do. And sharing it with other people, the whole school finds that that kind of bullying has led people to commit suicide. There's been some very well-known cases in the country about that. Increase in risky behavior, dating and hookup apps. You don't know who you're dealing with when you're meeting people that way. Next paragraph. Or sorry, next slide. Yes. So there are some positive effects of cell phone use. I don't want to be totally negative here. There are online communities, including gaming, provides peer support. There's some kids who have a great time interacting, and they're chatting with their friends while they're playing online games, and that can have a useful a purpose. It can really bring some of them together. Being more connected with family and friends, FaceTime can be a wonderful thing to be able to see people face to face. It's better than just doing it by text. Many teens actually use social media to access mental health resources. There are some really good ones out there. Of course, you got to make sure that they are accurate. Not all of them are going to be. Can be a source of creativity and self-expression. Doing different things with photographs and having some fun with it can actually develop some artistic abilities. We actually know that if you're playing video games, that can actually help train you if you are going in the military. If you're being rewarded by fast action and being able to good quick responses, that can be very helpful. So they actually some of the people that go into the military, they train on these games because they do help. It can relieve boredom, certainly. Easy to track your child's whereabouts. These days it's like everybody has to know where everybody is all the time, which I think actually creates a sort of a culturally induced anxiety, like kids are somehow unsafe if you don't know exactly where they're all the time. And again, it seems safer than wandering the streets if your kids are inside talking, but again, you don't necessarily know where they are, which is why it's always better to have these devices in more group areas where you can monitor what's going on. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me finish up with some tips for parents and guardians. One of the things you want to do is create a shared media agreement. There's some in the reference slide in a little bit here. You'll see some examples. Common Sense Media is one of the premier organizations. They do all sorts of stuff, rating video games, movies, TV shows, etc. in terms of acceptable content. But they also have links to things that you can download. There's for example, a family media contract on cell phones. It'll talk about time limits, what you're allowed to share or not share, that you can't share your personal, location, your address, things of that nature. Um, that you're not going to share location with people that don't know you, and what the consequences will be if you violate those agreements. So setting reasonable limits based on a child's maturity and ability to self-monitor. Some kids can be very mature and they'll use the devices, but they're much rather go out and play. And so if they're using them in reasonable ways, you don't necessarily need to monitor as closely. If you have somebody who's so obsessed about them that they have a meltdown every time you give them a device and it's time to stop, those are kids who don't have the ability yet to self-regulate. And so you may need to set more restrictions there. Be sure to research apps and games before allowing your child to download them. I know on iPhones, you can set it up so that they have to get your permission before they can download something. That can be very useful. Again, don't rely on that alone. Kids have great ways of getting around these devices. A lot of kids, what they'll do is they'll actually download an app and then they delete it before you check it, and then they re-download it later on. So you have to look at history of where they're going and what they're downloading. Be sure to educate kids about the risks of tech. It's not just about setting limits. It's about educating them to be good consumers. There's some videos out there. There's some documentaries, certainly having the discussions about it. Anything that you see, in the news about some of the problems associated with it, share it. Have a discussion about it. Because what you want to do is help them to become smart users of these devices when they're not around you and not under your direct supervision. Setting screen time limits using parental controls. One of the things I suggest is that having cell phone use or having screen time be earned, not just automatic. The better they're doing with being responsible at home, the better they're doing with school, the more time they can have that they can earn it, that as opposed to giving them unlimited control and then taking it away when they've messed up. Speaking of which, you do need to allow your kids to make mistakes. Again, these devices are designed to be addictive. So if your child is not able to stick to the limits, it's not that they're just being disrespectful or defiant or they're trying to defy you on purpose. It just means that they don't have the ability to regulate. Just like you wouldn't expect an alcoholic to be able to refrain from drinking alcohol if it's all over the place in your house, right? Sometimes you just need to be out. It's just too tempting. So think about that when your kids are making mistakes. It just gives you information, and then you need to make some changes to whatever agreements you have, again, to keep them safe. Tech-free zones, very important. No phones at the dinner table. I'm sure you've seen how many families will have their phones out or watching TV or whatever. Or nowadays, they're all doing their own thing. They take their dinner and they go to their individual rooms. It doesn't really provide much in the way of connecting with family. It's very sad. So you've got to set a good example about that as well. That if you're expecting no phones at the table, you need to put your phones down as well. Most likely, there's nothing that's so urgent that you have to interrupt family time with reasonable exceptions. I think you want to monitor content without invading their privacy. Again, as they get older, they would have more of a, I guess, a right to privacy. But again, within limits, safety should always come first. Modeling healthy use of screens. Like I said, a lot of kids I work with, they complain that their parents are busy on social media or taking work calls all the time and interrupting one-on-one time with the kids. So try to set a good example as best you can so that, because if you have a do as I say, not as I do, that's not going to work because kids pay close attention to what you're doing. Next slide. All right. So again, social media, cell phone use, and just screens in general can impact mental health in positive and negative ways. So you as parents are going to play a vital role in helping them navigate online spaces responsibly. It's an ongoing teaching activity. You want to try to encourage balance and healthy habits is the key to reducing risks and keeping lines of communication open. Next slide. I think there's just one more, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, here's some resources for you. Common Sense Media, I mentioned here before. Facebook has some information on safety. Instagram, Apple, etc. A couple of things here down. You see a cell phone contract for teens and tweens. You can print and download. Some of these you can just modify on your own so that you can make it specific to your individual family. Next, one more slide. I think that is it.
Thank you, Dr. Chris. We appreciate your sharing with us your expertise. We do have some time left in today's webinar for some questions. So you do have the Q&A button, and we've already received a few questions in the chat. So we are going to answer as many as we can given our time constraint today. And then any additional questions that you have that we aren't able to answer tonight, we will include it in our FAQs on our website. So we're going to start with our first question that we received. I'm actually going to ask Dr. Whitney Martin-Johnson to assist with answering this question. This question says, will students who have exceptions to the cell phone policy have some sort of cell phone pass or a card to show staff if they are allowed to have their cell phones?
So yes, students will have a way to signal that they're permitted to use their cell phone as a result of an accommodation, either in their 504 plan or their IEP, if it can't be otherwise implemented with another piece of technology.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll make sure that's included in our FAQs as well. I have another question. I'm going to ask Mr. Ron Crow to assist with this question. What happens during a lockdown? I want my child to be able to text me or call me.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, as a parent, I can certainly understand every parent's anxiety and wanting to text or call their child during a crisis to make sure they're okay. However, this isn't necessarily in your students' best interest when it comes to their safety. If students are on their phone, they're not alert to their surroundings and situational awareness, and they're not focused on the direction any teacher may give. Paying attention and moving quickly if needed is vitally important. Phones making noise to identify your location during an active violence event could have unfortunate consequences. When first responders has ensured that all staff and students are safe, schools can certainly allow students to use their phones to contact parents. Again, your best source of accurate information during a crisis will be provided by the school division on a number of platforms as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. All right, we have a question about how this will be implemented. Will it be up to individual schools to implement this policy and figure out how it is best to implement? So as we shared, we did have a cell phone pilot this year. And as part of that pilot, we provided schools with toolkits and resources for implementation and clear practices and best practices for implementation. And so we have already begun to create those resources for this policy. And so it will not be up to individual schools. We will have that toolkit for schools with their resources and clear expectations for how to implement this policy, as well as the consequences for students. So all schools, elementary, middle, and high school will be implementing this policy in the same manner. Thank you for that question. We have another question on here that says, why can't students use their personal laptops or tablets at school? And so that's another great question. And remember that we have shared that we do provide laptops and iPads, Prince William laptops and iPads for our students. And it is very important for us to recognize that if students were to be able to use their personal laptops and iPads during this policy, we are not able to manage or monitor that in terms of our IT department or the teachers in the classroom. Students' personal devices can become Additional sources of entertainment, leading students to engage in activities that may be unrelated to their studies, such as social media, gaming, browsing the internet, and personal texting apps can be used on personal devices during class, and that would circumvent our school board policy. And so in order for us to truly follow this policy, our students will only be able to use the Prince William County issued laptops or iPads. So thank you for that question. We have time for a few more. And like I said, if we don't get to your question, we will make sure that we include it in our FAQs. We did have another question about just the start of the policy. So will there be a warning period, or will the policy start the first day of school? And so the policy will be in effect the first day of school. We'll make sure that students receive and families receive reminders leading up to the first day of school so that we can begin implementing this policy right away. This kind of goes along with that, this question in terms of additional ways that parents and families can support in preparing students for the policy. So this is part of our FAQs already on our website, but parents can support the policy by discussing its importance with their students and encouraging them obviously to comply with the policy, to reinforce the idea that this policy is intended to benefit their education and social development. So although there might be some growing pains in adapting to the policy, parents can encourage students and help them also understand that there are alternative ways to contact parents if they are needed. So making sure that students understand how to contact you as a parent through the school office. And parents, of course, can do what Dr. Christ recommended as well, trying those different approaches to limiting the time on those personal devices starting over the summer so that we are prepared for the August 18th start. We are at time. There were a few more questions just in terms of the procedures and how to implement. We will include all of those in our frequently asked questions on our website. We truly appreciate all of these great questions so that we can make sure that we get those answered right away for you so that you can, again, have those conversations so that we are ready for full implementation in August. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Atkins at this time.
Well, I thank you, Mrs. Porter Lucas. Thank you guys for being here. We hope you found this webinar both enriching and valuable. We want to thank you again for joining us for the Stop the Scroll, Take Control. We appreciate your time and engagement, and we value your feedback. So we would love to hear your thoughts about today's webinar. So please take a moment to complete the survey that will be sent to you via email. It's a link, and it is a brief survey just to get your feedback on the information you received today. Your insights and suggestions will be greatly appreciated. Thank you again, and have a great evening.
बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.